and there's so many interesting things, but to see these not as pictures, to see these as like physical, actual consoles right here is incredible. Hello and welcome to Hello, I am Clutch, where I am here today in Frisco, Texas at the Frisco Discovery Center to go to the Video Game Museum. Now, I'm really excited about this because I just learned about it not too long ago, and I love video games, and I love quirky museums, so this is a perfect fit. Now, this is my first time, so I don't entirely know what we're gonna find in there. I think there's some history of video games. I think there's some fun stuff to possibly interact with as well, but we're kind of discovering it together today. So, I'm really excited to take you along with me as we go figure out what's going on in the Video Game Museum. So, follow me. And just as a small point of clarification, it's the National Videogame Museum, not to be confused with all the other video game museums. Trying to find a good angle for you to show you the hours of the Video Game Museum. So, more or less, it's closed on Mondays and it's open every other day with some slightly varying times on the weekends. And then look at this display. Wow. This is neat. There's a whole bunch of different video game systems in the bottom there. It's like got this big thing at the top showing a whole bunch of just like different commercials and videos, video game related things. I definitely see an Xbox here. Now, I feel like the popular video game systems, I don't know, like Atari and some of the older stuff, I feel like the pre-Super Nintendo era. So I'm kind of excited to learn a little bit, but I'm not gonna be able to regurgitate it as much as I would like to. I need to find a better word to say when I want to say stuff back. But some of these I do know, like obviously, that's a PS3, that's the back of a PS3. That's a GameCube up there. That's a Virtual Boy. If they have a Virtual Boy, oh, God, I think this is Rob 64? Is that a Rob 64? Maybe I know a little bit more than I think. Anyway, let's go inside. So here's your prices. We got single admission is $12 and kids 10 and under are $10. 3 under are completely free. So you walk in and you're greeted by all these wonderful friendly faces like Mario, Sonic, Mega Man, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, and Pikachu. Yes, I know video games, literally the most popular ones. Anyway, there's a whole lot here that's really, really cool. So it starts with like stage 1. It says stage 1, it kind of helps you go in a certain order, it looks like. So we're gonna go around this whole place. Looks like we go all the way to at least stage 12 from what I'm seeing over there. Those kids are having a lot of fun with Pong on this humongous scale. Shows you just how strong Pong is as a game. So stage 1 really seems to be showing you the beginning of the home video game system consoles that were available. And so something cool here is this brown box prototype. So this is basically like one of the very first video game systems that was done in home as a prototype. And I'm not gonna read you every little sign here. There's so much, like, it wouldn't be interesting if I just read it all to you. It's like, this is a visual medium, the YouTube video. So like, this is pretty cool. Some of the things, like these are from like the 70s, like this says Dr. Pong, we got Puppy Pong, we got regular Pong, and then as I already kind of pointed out, we got humongous Pong with the most excited kids on the planet. I love the excitement for the old video game. It's legitimately great. It's just, I don't know where the energy comes from. But there's so many cool old things here. I've talked about it in some other videos. I really love old technology, like old radios, old TVs, old anything. And like, some of these random things are amazing. That like to see them all in one place side by side is always what makes this a little bit cooler to me. So this is just stage 1. Let's keep going. And here is stage 2, which is kind of like the next generation of home consoles. And like, you obviously know your Nintendos, your PlayStations, your Xboxes, but there's so many more that I feel like are being lost into memory more so, where there's just so many old interesting things that are beyond Atari even. Like here's Intellivision, I know Intellivision, and there's so many interesting things, but to see these not as pictures, to see these as like physical actual consoles right here is incredible. Like, this is cool. Like, I mean, again, I feel like the NES is what really, really popularized a lot of at-home consoles, but like, I know, again, this was 85. All of that is before 1985, so like this is amazing. And just to give some context to me, to Clutch, Super Nintendo was probably my first major console. Given that Super Nintendo was my first real console, I love that they have these big Super Nintendo kind of controllers here. So what you do with this is, let's see if I push some buttons, does it move? Oh yeah. So I guess you can go through this, and you can literally, you push that, and you can like go around and learn about different things. So let's learn about like the Virtual Boy. What about the Virtual Boy? It started for $179.99, which was a steal. Some would say this was arguably the most successful console in Nintendo's history. That's a terrible joke. Just want to continue on the other half of that timeline to look at these cool things. Where like you got your first PlayStation. So the PlayStation started first in 1995. That was a big deal because I mean that is like, that's some people when like the console wars kind of started more. I know you had, you know, your Sega Genesis up there competing against the Super Nintendo and the regular Nintendo, but I feel like it was around PlayStation and the N64 time, and then the first Xbox in 2001, that's when it really started to get a little bit more crazy. These kids are still playing Pong 25 minutes later. So moving on to stage 3, what I'm seeing is that it's not exactly in chronological order of like, it's not just like the history of video games, it's showing like different facets of video games. So like this section is about the third-party video game systems that were out there. And so some of the more like, you got some interesting versions of things, like things you might have never seen before, like the Neti Rose or the Sega Genesis CD Dev Station. So it's kind of cool to see things like that, or all these like kind of unique versions of like Nintendo 64s and Game Boys and like development systems. So this is unique. This is really cool stuff. There is honestly just so much in these cases that it would just take forever for me to like show you everything there is to show you. So like I'm just gonna kind of like give you a shot here so you can kind of pause and look closer if you want to at some of the things they have here, because it is quite an amazing variety of things. And there's not full explanations on everything, but again, if you go close, they do have more explanations on some of them, just to give you an understanding of like what you're looking at. And again, it's all great, but just oh my gosh, it's a little overwhelming just how much there is. This is much more thorough than I thought it was going to be. Stage 4 is focusing on control. So basically looking at all the different controllers that existed. So like it used to be like number pad with a dial and such, and then it became some of the more classic ones like your first PlayStation and your N64. I'm not actually a historian, I'm just pointing out things that I recognize. And here's some of your more kind of unique control systems like the Power Glove or the Flight Commander and the Cosmic Commander, that basically were just different ways to control what you're seeing on the screen. For me, and it'd be amazing if we saw it here, one of the funny variations of things I had was for Resident Evil 4. I had a controller in the shape of a chainsaw, and that was impossible to use, but it looked cool on a shelf. Oh yes, I remember these guys. You got your Game Genies, your Game Sharks. This is when the internet wasn't really there to enhance your video games, to figure out all the cheats and the such, so you use this to really, you know, figure out like the cheat codes, how to like basically hack the game so you could do fun stuff. Oh my gosh, this was like, it was always such an interesting thing, the Game Genie and the Game Shark, to be able to do that. And stage 5 is when we went portable. So obviously, home systems were for your home. So portable systems were for when you were going to game on the go. And so there are so many different kinds. I remember these old kind of systems that were like simply like one game in a thing. You had basic basketball, basic quarterback, basic bowling. It was just lights going in the right place to help you understand. So it's like, it's a lot of interesting, like it's like a mini arcade game in your hand, and that was about it. But then of course you get to some of these fun, kind of more advanced looking ones where like this looks like it was like a 2-player-ish type of stuff, or like it was supposed to actually look like a mini console. But then of course we get to the era that I grew up with the Game Boy era. I knew Game Boy, I grew up with a Game Boy, I had a Game Boy, I had a Game Boy Color, I remember Game Boy Pocket. I'm not sure if I ever had a Game Boy Pocket. I had a Game Boy printer. I don't know why I had a Game Boy printer, is so I could have a Game Boy printer, I guess. But then over here we got a few more. We got a little Mr. Game & Watch stuff down there, or just Game & Watch. Mr. Game & Watch is a character from Super Smash Brothers. But this is all cool. I never did have what was it? Game Gear? Game Gear? Anyone? Game Gear. Basically the Game Boy equivalents that were from. I never had a PS Vita or a PS Portal. See, the reason I don't know his names is because I never had them. Anyway, I did want to point out the Super Game Boy. I did have a Super Game Boy. I love the Super Game Boy. It seems like such a nerdy thing to basically, if you don't know, it was an accessory that you put into your Super Nintendo so that you could play your Game Boy games on a TV. It was a different time, man. This is awesome right here. They have like a little corner that's supposed to look like a video game store, like an older one. Got store closing, everything must go type of sign. I love this kind of thing. They got what I know some people argue is the worst game in the history of games, the E.T. on the Atari. That's fantastic. But just this whole corner is just a cute little thing. Oh, I guess this is a photo op. This is a photo op. Okay, photo op. Opping for a photo. Stage 6 seems to be talking a little bit about the crash, the video game crash. So again, not exactly chronological order, kind of different like aspects of the video game industry and different like kind of. What am I looking for? I'm looking for like little pockets of it, the little parts of it. So the video game crash was a big thing that happened in the 80s, I believe, where I don't know it super well off the top of my head. I just know that like video games and arcades got really popular, and then the industry crashed and it was not good. And this was like before really even like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, all that kind of stuff. So like it's interesting. I guess maybe it's because of the rise of home computers were a little bit. So maybe that is part of it. There is, again, a lot to read, and I don't want to just do it all for you. So here, you can read that. I'm glad you're done with that. Let me go over here, and then you can read this. Yep, there you got that. And then you got this. Is this helpful? Let me know in the comments if you actually like me running around like this, or if this is just silliness. And then we got stage 7, which looks to be about the rise of home computers. So we got lots of home computer systems, and I love it. You can actually like, I'm not showing it on the camera, but like you can come up and like you can touch everything. You can actually play these games, and you can actually do stuff with them sometimes. Like you can actually come and play all these games for a while, which is really nice. But like, this is cool. They got an Apple IIe computer here. Let's see, and they got a Sega Genesis hooked up to it. Yep, see? I'm actually doing that. And here we got a display for Dragon's Lair, so this is pretty cool. Whereas all this Dragon Lair adjacent stuff, I actually talked about Dragon's Lair in my video at the Pinball Hall of Fame in Las Vegas, because Don Bluth is someone who did a lot with Dragon's Lair. If you want to hear my rant about that, go ahead, watch that. But you can actually play this, and what's cool is they do give you some tokens as part of your admission here, so you can actually play some of the games that require tokens, which I think is lovely. So stage 8 is about creating. So this was apparently referencing an age where they made games that basically helped create other games so that you could learn to kind of like, in a sense, create a video game. It wasn't super popular apparently, but it still kind of had a niche. And then when it came to creation of like video games and such, like I know one of the popular things today is like the Mario Maker games, but something that I knew was this one. Mario Paint, where it had a mouse attachment, and basically I didn't ever use it for Mario Paint. I used it because within that game they had like a fly swatter game where you tried to swat a big fly, and that's the only reason I ever played Mario Paint. And then this seems to be its own section outside of stages. So we got the whole virtual reality area, which I personally believe is never gonna fully catch on. I've been saying that for a long time. That's my personal opinion. I don't usually speak so strongly in my videos about something that might be a controversy, but I think virtual reality is, as a novelty, sure. As an actual home video game system, get off my lawn. And then we have a whole section about Pokemon, showing how it's got a timeline up there, which is really cool. Started in 1996, and then it's got all like video games and such over here. So let's get a closer look at like it's kind of cool that they had the red, blue, and yellow all at the beginning. And I think that concept was so novel at the time that like really helped it take off. But then you have like it evolved, or yeah, that's funny. It evolved a lot into other things, so much merchandise, many other types of games. And I know one of the big popular things today is on the other side over here is the trading cards. I mean, I know that was a big part of it to begin with. I've never been a big Pokemon person, but like I know the card trading game is still huge today. I know a little bit about it, very little. I do feel like, from my perception, people care more about trading the cards than actually playing the game. But tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. Do people actually play Pokemon, the card game, or is it really just about trading the sets and having the sets? And then we have this section about the TurboGrafx 16, which I think was quite a divisive system when it came out. I know a little bit about it. I know one thing that was weird about it was it only had a port for one controller, so you needed like extensions to be able to put in more than one controller. That's the one thing I actually knew off the top of my head about it. But so this has a whole fun section that talks about how Nintendo was not into it, and so they went elsewhere to try to make this thing a reality. I feel like this is quite a forgotten console, but it's cool that they have so much of it here. So I'm appreciating the heck out of this place. So this is called the checkpoint at this point. I do think all those other sections were actually, they're individual sections, they just weren't labeled, because I said there's at least 12 sections. I think there's actually more than 12 sections. So anyway, we got the checkpoint here, where there's, looks like just a whole bunch of interesting like tie-in merch of sorts. Like this looks like it's about how, well, I'm looking around trying to piece it together. I can't entirely tell. This just looks like some really great random stuff. Talking about like the Nintendo World Championship 90. I know that was a big deal. Like this, I think this cartridge in particular is incredibly like rare. A lot of just interesting paraphernalia. Some things that you wouldn't see super often. I'm aware of Clay Fighter, Sculptor's Cut. I like Clay Fighter, the original one. That was a good one as well. But there's just a lot of really cool stuff in here. I see why there's lots of loud kids. There's a birthday going on. Makes a lot of sense. It's exactly where I would have gone if I was a young kid with a birthday. I'm an adult. I also have birthdays. Why don't I come here? Who knows? Now I'm just talking over this so I can see some of this fun stuff over here. But yeah, it looks like, oh yeah, this is, that's Rob. It wasn't Rob64, it's just Rob, robotic operating buddy. Anyway, lots of just really cool stuff in here. Again, there's so much you can read. Oh, this is an interesting one. The Donkey Kong competition cartridge. I don't know why that was hard to say for me. Anyway, still got some more fun stuff over here. Some very interesting, like, look, this GameCube is on steroids, apparently. I've never seen a GameCube like that. This is really just a lot of interesting, cool stuff that, and you look closely at all this, like these serial tie-ins, there's just so much great stuff. I mean, again, it's really, I know a lot of this video is like, look at that, there's that, what is that? But it's still, I hope you're getting something out of this. You're seeing things that are really cool, because to me it is all very, very interesting. So we're already on to stage 12, because again, I think those other stages counted. So this is Unplugged. So this looks like it's a whole bunch of board games based on video games. So that's a lot of fun, because you got your Street Fighter 2, you got Q-Bird up there, Pole Position, definitely know that guy, Centipede. Some of the art on this is really what makes it great. Like Centipede art, that's amazing. Berserk. Excuse me, Berserk. I had a hiccup there. That was unexpected. A Zaxxon, like all these are just, I think that's something that I think is cool about, like, especially not just old technology, but old like, what do I want to say, like marketing and boxes and branding. Branding was the word. Is that like, it just, because there wasn't as much just like technology to make some of the branding that there was, I just feel like the care in it is just like stronger. And this might be one of the best sections so far, stage 13, family. So basically talking about it, because this, Harold Warp's Pioneer Village. Go watch that video, you'll understand. Anyway, this, it's the setup that is so stereotypically from like the 80s, of like the TV basically on the ground, this system right there. I feel like if you understand, as kids we would all sit right there. There's a couch for no real purpose other than to take up space. We'd all sit down there and put the console so it could be nice and close to the TV, and just the fact that they like set this up like this. Let me back up a little bit so you can really see it. This is a cool little museum. And then across from family, it turned into sanctuary. So it looks like when it was just like, it went from being in like a family thing into like an individual room thing. This looks much more like we're in the 90s, and you have more of that kind of vibe, and just like showing like you might have just had it because the consoles became a little bit more advanced, you can just put them into your bedrooms there, so you can just have them on the TV. If you had a bedroom TV, that'd be a special type of childhood, actually, to be able to have that. So I feel like I missed stage 15, but stage 16 is the bonus stage. That's great. So we got a few just like statues here and a few extra kind of unique games, I guess. Oh yeah, look at this. Like, I think this is cool that you can, this is a Ms. Pac-Man game where you can see the insides there. But oh, look at this. It looks like they have a whole actual arcade in there. Well, that's nifty thrifty. Yeah, this is called Pixel Dreams, so let's go check it in. So again, they gave you some tokens to play some games, and they do have change machines here if you want to get some tokens. But yeah, so this is great. They have some, like a little arcade here, so you can actually play some games. A lot of great stuff. Let's do it once around so you can see everything. So we got like Tapper, we got Donkey Kong Jr., Frogger, Joust, Centipede, Super Breakout, a lot of your classics, Let's keep going, seeing else what we have. Gauntlet, yep, Q*bert, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, Ms. Pac-Man, Dig Dug. I'm just saying everything I'm seeing in front of me. They're the ones I recognize, like Rampage. But yeah, I think that's wonderful. Like, again, you could come here, play a whole bunch, but they do give you a few tokens at the start. So if you just want to use your tokens, you totally can. This has been a fantastic little museum. Ah, here's stage 15. That makes a lot more sense. It was just, I had to turn around. So this is kind of like a mural about Keith Robinson, who was a big player in television and making sure in television's history stayed relevant. And so he was pretty important for a few different reasons there. And so that's just a little thing about Keith Robinson. So thank you for coming along with me to the National Video Game Museum. Now, this place far exceeded expectations. Now, I didn't have a lot. I thought this was going to be kind of small and not have too much. I knew there was a little bit of interactive and some history, but like this was amazing. There is so much great stuff, and like I didn't show it all on camera I tried to show most of everything, but there's so much you can read. So like really learn about it and get a lot more context of other than me pointing again, going like, look at that, look at that, look at that. Anyway. So this display, unfortunately, isn't working at the moment, but I think this is an important little thing to point out, is about the Easter egg. Where did the term Easter egg come from? You may have heard of Easter eggs before, but it came from this game on Atari called Adventure. So Adventure was a game where I believe Warren Robinette basically hid his name in the game because the developers weren't credited very well, and that was one reason to basically, if you did something special, you could find a room with his name. And so basically this like tells you how it happened. How do you find it? So it gives you all the steps to do it, and basically by the end you would go through a wall that was special, and like then you would see a secret message, which I believe was basically his name, is what if I recall correctly. So I just think that's a really cool thing about Easter egg. So that's kind of almost like an Easter egg about Easter eggs. If you did enjoy this video, you might actually also enjoy checking out my video when I went to the Pinball Hall of Fame, because I really love pinball as well. That's in Las Vegas, and I did a full tour here, and there's more than pinball in there. Lots of interesting, unique arcade games as well. But if you do want to jump to a different adventure, I do got this one for you. That's a special one. I had a really great time there as well. So hopefully I'll see you in one of those. But until then, I will say goodbye. I am still Clutch.